Hi, I'm Kurt Nicoll and I'm going to talk to you about riding a 1989 bike as opposed to riding a 2016 bike. So one of the biggest differences in riding an older bike compared to a new one is they've made these, the seat goes down and it kind of sits you in the front, and so it's difficult to move about on. A modern bike is so nice and flat that you can move from the back of the seat to the front, and it just gives the movement much more. Like this, when you go into the corner, you kind of sat down in the middle there and you feel like you're on an armchair. One of the biggest differences is how you set up the suspension on these bikes, because a modern bike with its air forks or its very good spring forks, and it's different shock rates, and these ones, I mean, to stop it from bottoming, you have to have it really, really hard, and if you want to have it nice and plush, then you have to put up with bottoming. Whereas nowadays, in a 2017 450 KTM, you basically, it's like perfectly set up. It never bottoms, and it's nice and soft to ride. This is a lot more work to make. It's not that you can't get it, but it's track to track. It's exactly how I remember it. Whereas modern bikes will definitely take every track. One thing about this 1989 Honda is it still corners really, really well compared to a modern bike, because it goes so low in the corners, and it'll still hold the line. So I actually feel like I can take really tight lines on it. Then the front end tends to steer out of the rut, and you can't steer with the rear wheel as much as you used to be able to. I feel much more on this bike like I'm having to steer with the front end. To make it more like a modern bike, one of the things is to put new tyres on, and so you put new tyres on, obviously you get more grip, especially rear end traction's better than it used to be with the old tyres. I mean, that gives it a feel of a modern bike. Clutch, I'm used to hydraulic clutches with the KTM, so the clutch feels like it needs two hands to pull it in, so I'm having to get used to that and get used to some additional left arm pump. But leaving it off the start, I mean, it goes good, and the clutch feels just like a modern clutch pretty much, but then again you're short shifting up the start straight. I think at Farleigh Castle I'll probably go second, third, fourth pretty quickly up that start straight. Yeah, the power delivery on these bikes is much more abrupt, and so it's more difficult to control. Especially with a four-stroke, you have that beautiful power that comes on nice and steady, but even a modern two-stroke with that KTM, it's definitely a more progressive power. This is not a progressive power. Yeah, so I actually have been riding with a modern two-stroke to get ready for Farleigh Castle, a 2016 KTM 250, and a massive difference in power. Even a 2016 250 two-stroke, you can hold the gears a lot longer. The biggest thing I remember now from two-strokes from this era, 250 two-strokes, is short shifting all the time. I think even on a relatively short straightaway, I'm doing second, third, fourth, third, second, second, third, fourth, third, second, down like that all the time. Whereas a modern two-stroke, you're taking away one gear change because they rev so much longer and pull so much harder from the bottom. The brakes are not very progressive, compared to modern brakes. So they actually stop pretty well. Honda brakes were always very good, even back here. KTM brakes weren't as good back in the day. But you definitely get an on-off feeling with these brakes, whereas modern brakes are more progressive. And so, again, it just makes you have to think a little bit more. And certainly when I was first riding, I was locking the rear wheel up quite a lot. And so I've had to get used to being a little bit more progressive with the foot as opposed to letting the brake be progressive. Yeah, it's definitely an experience to ride this bike, to remember how it was back in the day. I've had a lot of fun. I actually had a real lot of fun building it, and remembering how bikes built, and now, riding it, remembering how it was to ride, remembering how much effort it was to ride compared to a new bike. It's just been fun. I've had a really good time. I am Kurt Nicoll and I'm a moto head.